a little interesting thing surfaced today. Former Botcon head honcho Pete Sinclair posted some really super interesting images on his Facebook page that is associated with his own personal convention, Pete's Robot Convention. Um, it's images here of what would have been a Transformers Generations Kup, or I guess in this case maybe a Young Kup in this case. And I mean it's funny because Kup and Orion Pax have kind of had this connection of they swap molds with each other.
Yeah, because I was trying to remember. I was like, didn't we see a cup that was based off of Orion Pax or an Orion Pax from the Headmasters one?
Well, see, that's just it.
See,
So
that's my brain. So when I saw
that's
this,
why
I was confused. I was like, didn't we already do this?
the
Wait,
first
what?
time the first time this happened was way back when eHobby was doing exclusive G1 repaints. They took the original G1 Cup toy, Target Master G1 Cup in this case, which is the same thing as G1 Cup, just had a Target Master partner,
Hmm.
and they included it with Wheelie and repainted it as Cup and Dion. Excuse me, not Cup and Dion, Orion Pax and Dion. And that was the first time Cup was associated with Orion Pax as
Right.
being a mold brother, back all the way with the G1 repaints of eHobby, which were done in the 2000s. The next one was obvious, like of a Cup kind of repaint from a pre-existing mold that does an Orion Pax thing was the one that you mentioned,
Right.
where they took the Titans Return Cup
Titans Returns. Right.
and then just put a different head sculpt on it a little bit and just repaint it nicely, and you have yet another Orion Pax. And now we see this one here that again
That one was
Orion
Sergeant
Pax from
Cup.
the
There we go.
Generations, also brand new head sculpt on it. And what was fascinating about this more than anything, the fact that this was going to be a thing at one point, although more along the lines of it probably would have been a BotCon thing or a club exclusive,
Yeah.
mostly because Pete Sinclair's the one who. But he even points out that in the very last BotCon, um, not I think it was not the very last. I think it was the second to last. There was a BotCon custom class figure called Galva Prime, and I remember getting this custom class figure, but I didn't go to the class. I just got the pre-assembled one that you could buy. But I remember people telling us how when they got their sprues to build it in the class, they actually removed two things from the sprues, and people just assumed that it was a remolded head that was meant for another character or something that we were going to get down the line. And they were kind of right because in the end, the club would then do other exclusives using that mold. Like we got like a Nova Prime from it and everything. So we always assumed that's what those missing two sprued parts were. We ended up finding out that that wasn't the case. They did the custom class and they had to bust off those two cup head pieces. And I'm going to post in the thumbnail of the conversation here the sprue with the cup pieces still on there. So
Mm.
anyone who did the custom class will be able to see what was missing. A lot of us were like, "Oh, it must have been that." Again, like we were looking at those empty sprue pieces and going, "Oh, it must have been the Nova Prime heads." They always do that because a lot of times these stuff when they come from the factories, both heads are on there. So
Right.
they'll remove the one head because it's not necessary for the custom class. But this was something that was unreleased or was going to come out one day. So this is really cool, and again, I like it a lot. Um, and I imagine that this would have been a young cup. I think that that's the route
Yeah.
that they could have went with because back in 2009 they did the same thing where they did they repainted Cybertron Red Alert
Hmm.
into Young Cup, and they kind of had this ongoing Wings of Honor story with Young Cup growing up through the war. So this could be like, Wings of Honor Cup was Young Cup. This cup could have been like slightly older cup,
Hmm.
not grizzled veteran just yet, but more like undercover cop that's slowly getting jaded. I don't know. Like it looks really cool. I like how they painted the axe. Just very vibrant teal
Yeah.
colors that looks great on him.
I would have liked to see him transformed in his alt
Yeah,
form,
that's the
but
one thing that's missing here. Unfortunately, there's no transform photos because that
yeah,
would have been really cool to see. But
because I
this is
kind of want to
great.
see how those legs play in and how it looks in the end. Because it's two different shades of colors there, and I just would have liked to see it, and I think it would
I,
have been a
I
little bit
I'm
interesting.
it hasn't been announced, but if I was a betting man, I think that this is probably going to be on display at Pete's Robot convention.
Hmm.
So if we're going to probably see some photos in the future of an alt mode, it'll probably be there. So if you want to know more about this figure, I think pay attention to Pete's Facebook page. I know that we're going to be talking more about Pete's Robot convention in the future
Hmm.
when I always like to talk about a convention when all the information has been released about it,
Yeah, instead
because
of just
Pete's
assuming
convention is going to
stuff.
be in June. So when all the guests and everything has been announced, we're going to do a nice big package promoting his show and saying what's going to be coming and stuff. Because Pete's always been a really good guy to me when I worked with him with Botcon and stuff. So I always appreciate all the stuff that he does, and he was a pretty cool guy in the fandom. So definitely check that out. I'm pretty sure we're going to see some more of this and maybe some more information as time progresses.
Thanks for opening up the vault.